everyone, it's Alice and welcome to episode 3 of Book Chat. So if you've missed it so far, Book Chat is a new segment that we have made for our channel in which we're discussing all of the biggest bookish news of the week in like a bit of a wrap up. And then also talking about the reading that we have done in the week as well. So this week there haven't been too many announcements that aren't theme reveals, so we're going to run through all of those now. I will admit that this is going to be a bit of a spoilery episode, so if you're not somebody who wants to know guesses for upcoming book boxes, then I'm afraid you're going to need to turn off now or just jump really, really far ahead in the video. I'll try and ask Sean if he can put a timestamp on the screen for when all of the theme reveals are finished being discussed, but it's going to be the bulk of the video. There were, I think, 8 theme reveals this week, so we're going to do a run through of all of them. I'm going to tell you what the name of the theme is and what book that either I think it is or what book that Autumn Book Reads predicts that it may be, because there are some that I didn't really have an idea on, some that I pretty much already had on my radar, and then there's some that Autumn has put up that I just thought I'd mention just in case it ends up being those. So let us jump right in. I'm gonna have to keep looking at my phone because there are way too many for me to keep them straight in my head, especially with like remembering what items are coming in which boxes. So we are going to start with FairyLoot. So FairyLoot revealed their May YA theme, which is Scholarly Secrets. The box is going to include items featuring A Study in Drowning, the Atlas 6, and there's also going to be 2 fandom neutral items, which one of those is going to be the next book in the Secret Books series. I can't remember what they're actually called, but either way, Becca had my previous ones of those, so I'll be sending that to her as soon as it arrives because I want to keep the set all together and she's happy receiving them. My prediction for that one is going to be The Temptation of Magic by Megan Scott. I first think I did see this on Autumn's page and that kind of put it on my radar. I'm hoping that they do quite a nice redesign on it because the original cover looks really boring to me, but the story does sound interesting and I'm interested enough in Dark Academia that the items in the box are also quite appealing, so I will definitely be getting that one. We have the May adult theme, which is Cottagecore. It looks like that's going to be The Honey Witch by Sydney J. Shields, and FairyLoot also revealed their May Romantasy theme, which is Written in Red, and that sounds like that's going to be A Curse of Blood and Wolves by Melissa McTiernan. Either way, that book was originally published as an indie book and has recently been picked up by a publisher, so FairyLoot are doing it now that it's being republished, which is pretty much what I expected from Romantasy, so that's not too much of a surprise. But it definitely seems like there's going to be a dramatic kind of tone shift between the first 2 books. Because the April Romantasy pick, a lot of people have said it feels more kind of almost YA, very much a crossover book. It's not as adult as they'd expected the Romantasy sub to be. But then I've seen early reviews or like indie reviews for this one, which are saying that it's quite a dark Romantasy. So it'll be interesting to see which direction they end up going with, if it becomes a bit more evened out in the future or if we're just going to continue to get a very kind of breakneck shift on the Romantasy books. There are some more FairyLoot bits that I will mention after, just because obviously if anybody has skipped the theme section, I don't want them to miss out on the other bits discussed. So we'll move on to the June aesthetic from FairyLoot, which also went up. I didn't have a guess on this one, but Autumn Book Reads is predicting Trisha Levenseller's The Darkness Within Us, which is a companion novel to The Shadows Between Us, which FairyLoot featured a few years ago, but can be read independently. But Autumn has said in the caption on Instagram that it's a guess that they're not very confident in. Like, they're normally very, very confident in their guesses when they go off of the aesthetic reels. So it'll be interesting to see. I think even if they're not announcing it as... Even if that doesn't end up being the June pick, I think they'll end up doing a special edition of it because they've obviously done the Daughter of the Pirate King series quite recently. So I think it's guaranteed that they will do a version of this at some point. It's just whether they're pointing towards that with the June aesthetic or not. We then have the Illumicrate May theme, which is Magical Bonds. That's going to feature a Rosie Thorn's Fourth Wing inspired mug. And there's also going to be items from Feybound, Realm of the Elderlings and the Hurricane Wars. And there's going to be a fabric book organizer as well. Whether that's another item on top or whether that's inspired by one of those, I'm not sure. But I think a Realm of the Elderlings book organizer could be really, really cool if that was what they were doing. I've seen the cover for a book that matches the theme reveal quite closely, which is Goddess of the River by Vaishnavi Patel. So I'm assuming that's going to be this one. And the Afterlight May theme was revealed as Picture Perfect, and again, based off of the cover alone, I'm going with One Last Shot by Betty Cayuette. So we're just going to have to wait and see, but normally the Illumicrate themes mirror the original cover that was published quite nicely. We then move on to OwlCrate, who also did a double whammy and revealed their adult and YA themes this week, for May. So the May adult theme is A Deal with the Devil, which looks like it's going to be Evocation by S.T. Gibson. FairyLoot Adult are doing that, I believe, this month. So I will be skipping that one because I want to get the FairyLoot edition of Evocation to match A Diary in Blood and An Education in Malice when that eventually arrives, because FairyLoot will then have done those 3 S.T. Gibson books. But OwlCrate are also doing the YA theme of Traverse the Realms. So there's going to be items inspired by Daughter of the Moon Goddess, The Buried and the Bound, Lord of the Rings and Shades of Magic. The Perfect Pairings pin for May will be inspired by Percy Jackson. And the book looks like it's going to be Song of the Six Realms, because it's Traverse the Realms, by Judy Eileen. I'm torn on this one because I'm interested in the book. And I'm on the Notify Me list on Waterstones, because Waterstones are doing an edition, but I didn't pre-order it in time before it sold out. So I've put myself on the Notify Me list, and if it goes back in stock and I can order it before the OwlCrate version goes on sale, then I will be skipping the box, because I'm not too drawn to any of the fandoms that are featured. But at the end of the day, my mum does really like Percy Jackson, so if I do end up getting it, I can probably get away with giving her the pin as a gift. So if I don't get off of the Notify Me list, it's not the end of the world, but it would just be nice to be able to save on the US to UK shipping cost twice in a month. That would feel very, very freaking good. One more theme to discuss, and that is the theme for the Locked Library for May, which is Beware the Moon. And this looks like it's going to be Moonstone by Laura Purcell. So those are all the themes done. And that means we can get on to discussing the other little bits of news, in which FairyLoot have been hinting towards an announcement that they're going to be making next week, which I think is going to be The Hemlock Queen by Hannah Witten. That's the secret to the Foxglove King. That's the sequel to the Foxglove King, which they did last year. The Hemlock Queen actually releases on the 11th, I believe, but I think it's a publisher that normally makes FairyLoot wait until after their publication date before they announce it. So we might end up seeing an announcement for this one towards the end of next week. Afterlight's Ali Hazelwood pre-order window opened. So if you're seeing this before April 17th at 3 PM, then you have the opportunity to order those Ali Hazelwood reprints. It's an open pre-order window, and I believe that also includes the newest Ali Hazelwood Not in Love as well. So if you are in the market for some Ali Hazelwood special editions, and it's before April the 17th at 3 PM BST, get yourself over there. The Pierce Brown pre-order window also opened. So they're doing a thing with the Escalate where the first 3 books in the Red Rising series are available to pre-order. They'll get sent to Pierce's house, signed and personalised, and then shipped out to people. And that pre-order window is open until 12th of April at noon. I don't know noon which time zone. I'm guessing ET or CT, which is Eastern Time or Central Time. But I would just say that if it's the 12th of April or before, then you should probably run to their website if you're interested in ordering that, just so you can get it before the window closes. And last but not least, I'd like to mention the fact that I think Bookish Box are hinting towards doing a set for the Powerless books. Powerless is out now. I believe the short story Powerful has just been released, and Reckless is coming out later in the year. But someone asked in their Q&A whether they had any hints towards any upcoming announcements, and the background on the screenshot that's on the screen looks very Powerless coded, so we will just have to wait and see, but it looks like that's probably coming very soon. So that is all of the news for this week. Not as much as we've had in previous weeks, but I think because everybody was just focusing on getting their theme reveals out and like focusing on doing their renewals where it was the start of the month, that's why it was a bit slower this week. But I will keep you updated if anything gets announced over the next 7 days in our next episode of Book Chat. So now we'll just move on to talking a little bit about what we've been reading this week, and the answer to that is not really a lot. Which just seems to be the overarching theme on this channel recently. This reading slump, if it is a slump, I think I'm going to have to start calling it a slump, is beginning to kick my ass. So last week I mentioned that we were currently in the middle of reading Dark Star Burning Ash Falls White by Emilio Ensau. I've started affectionately referring to this as Song of Sequel because I can't remember the words in the right order because my brain is apparently just not working right now. We've basically given up on that. I put a screenshot in the last video, or I hope Sean did. I haven't had a chance to double check that. Of what the page looked like that I was on, with how few pages are on, like how few words are on the page for it to take me 16 minutes to read it. And I can honestly admit that I'm still on that same page. I've hit a brick wall with it. I'm only in the middle of the first chapter and I just can't do it. Which is not like me when it's a really anticipated book, but we'll just have to wait and see if I can persevere with that one in the future. Sean and I have managed maybe half a chapter of House of Flame and Shadow in the last week as well, so that's also not great. But we're still trying. We've got maybe 10 days before it expires on the library app, and then we have to read it physically, so we're going to try and read as much as possible in the next 10 days to protect my wrists from holding such a wrist snapper all the time, so we'll wait and see and update you on that one. I managed to finish Chinglish by Su Cheng. That didn't really help me with my reading. I ended up giving it 3 stars. Kind of rounded up to 3.5, but it's an interesting one. So Chinglish is told in diary entries from the viewpoint of somebody called Jo Kwan. She lives in a takeaway that her parents own, and they've only recently moved to Coventry, so she's settling in at a new school. So there's stereotypical things like getting her first boyfriend, issues with bullying. But then there's a lot of kind of darker themes that don't really come out until later on. So there's a lot of abuse within her family that's only alluded to at the beginning and then becomes quite graphic on the page towards the end of the story. And that doesn't seem like it's handled as well as I would want it to be handled. There's references to things like the possibility of calling Childline and calling for help, but Jo never does that. She never reaches out, never confides in any adult. She talks to her best friend, whose mother is a care worker, but nothing ever comes of that. It's just a case of she kind of suffers in silence until she moves away at the end of the book. I know that's a big spoiler, but yikes, that is a really big spoiler actually. I'm sorry. I mean, let's be honest, I've not heard anybody ever talking about this one, and I think the reason I really struggled to get through it was because it just felt so aimless and I had no idea what point I was kind of working towards. So you might actually enjoy this more knowing that it does end with like an event. Because one of the problems with telling it in like the epistolary format is that it does feel very aimless. So there's a lot of the entries that are just like funny little tales of the day in, day out life in the takeaway, but I didn't find it very funny, and I didn't really like the writing style all that much. I was kind of just waiting for it to start moving and actually feel like it was going somewhere. By the end, as I said, I did give it 3 stars. It was more like a 3.5 because I do think it will be great for people who are mixed race, who have that kind of disconnection between their different cultures, because Jo's parents are both from Hong Kong, but she's never had a chance to go to Hong Kong and she can't speak Chinese. So she kind of thinks of herself as English, but then she knows that compared to most English people, she does have a very unusual upbringing in that they eat like chicken's feet, and they obviously live in the takeaway, and they're very involved. Like, she becomes very involved in working in the takeaway as well. So it's that kind of contradiction between who she thinks she is, and where she wants to be. That's a very interesting part of the story. But overall, I mean, this took me like a month to read, and it's got illustrations, and it's very short. I just really struggled with it. So I'm glad that I've finished with that now. I've now moved on to something called What We Didn't Say by, I want to say, Rory Benson. Let me see if I can find out quick. This is the next one that the kids have picked out of the TBR jar for me. So, Rory Dunlop. I don't know where Benson came from. But this is the next one that the kids have picked out of the TBR jar. And this looks like it's going to be telling the breakdown of a marriage through diary entries written by the husband that the wife has annotated. So it's telling both of their stories at once. So I think that's going to be a very interesting style. It's just going from something written in diary entries to something written in diary entries. It's really strange that the kids have picked them out of the TBR jar in that order, and I'm not sure if my head's really in the right place for it, but I'm gonna valiantly give it a go, and I'll let you know next week how I'm getting on with that, because I'm already a chapter in and I only started that today, so it's going well so far, but we'll just have to wait and see if that also gets caught up in the slump. And I think that's probably about it for this week. So good stuff. Feeling better. I know last week I was quite ill, and this week I'm acting more like I'm ill because I'm just tired, but I'm actually feeling fine, which is good. So looking forward to another week, and hopefully next week we'll have some exciting announcements to discuss, and we should, fingers crossed, have made some progress on some of our books, or at least I'll have made some progress on What We Didn't Say now that I've just started it. So thank you for watching. Thank you for your patience with us, because I know that I'm not really reading much, so it's hard to be a booktuber when you keep hitting the hardest slumps and you can't claw your way out of them. But we'll get there eventually. We will. I will. This channel will. We'll survive. If you like this video, please give it a like. If you'd like to subscribe, we'd be super duper grateful. Please leave your thoughts down below on any of the theme reveals, or any of the other announcements, or any of the books that I've been reading. If there's anything that you would recommend, if you've got like any kind of Shorewin slump busters, that would be a really great suggestion. Anything that is like a nice, quick, easy read that will suck me in and actually help me switch my brain off would be really nice. Because reading is normally the one place that I can go to relax and kind of recuperate. And it doesn't feel like that's happening at the moment, because even that's a struggle. So, it's making things difficult. But we will see how it's going next week. Thank you for watching. I'm Alice. This is the Bumbling Vlogger, and we'll see you again in a couple of days with another video. And we'll see you next week for our 4th episode of Book Chat. Bye! Cool. Bye. Please take us on if you physically can.